And we are live. Good morning, Year 4, Year 5, Year 6. Welcome to today's lesson. We are looking at history today. We'll be getting going in just a few moments. If you're not already logged on, make sure you're doing so now. Don't forget youtube.com/MrLuby at Norristhorpe is your go-to place to get the lesson. If you don't know about them, you won't be able to hear me, so I don't know what I'm telling you about just yet. You can find all our previous lessons on there as well. If you're joining us for the first time, you can connect to our Hello Smart software by going to hellosmart.com on a new tab or browser and click as Join as Guest. Me and Mr. Mealy have nearly sorted out all the kinks and get you to sign into your account, which means you'll be able to access things in your own time as well. If you're using a tablet, you may want to open it up in a different device or come out of the video to go back into a tab. We'll be going away in just a minute. I'm going to check our connection's okay. Seems okay. Just leave this directly underneath our camera so that it picks up the connection. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Excellent. Today's lesson is history. So, my first question. Check we've all logged into the correct lesson. It's 538687. Got first. Disappear for a second. It will just come back on. Helps if you click the right button. We've got 42 children in the lesson. 538687. No one's put their full name, which is fantastic. Great to see you all. So, let's get cracking today with history. As in, what on earth is history? What do I mean when I say history? You don't need to tell me in class because you're going to tell me and share your ideas in a second. What skills do you need to be a historian? What do you learn in history? What's it all about? Is it just about one thing or is it about lots of things? What makes someone a good historian? Get ready to share your ideas with me now. Coming up on your screen, you'll get a chance to put 3 ideas down. See if you can give me quite an interesting descriptive answer. What can you add? So you're getting to follow ideas this time. We'll see some ideas coming from to my screen. 43 people join us, that's fantastic. We can get it towards 50 today. It's a lovely cup of tea. It's about lots of things, says Amelie. Science is about lots of things, computing is about lots of things, maths is about lots of things. The past is coming up, maps is coming up, and that's an interesting word, is maps. Maps is something which is really important in history, but it's also a key geographical skill as well, a key skill for geography. Lots of people are mentioning the past. See if we can get a bit deeper. What is it about the past? Here's one from Lucas. I think it's Lucas. History is what happened all the way in the past. Find out what happened. Any bits of history you know about, any topics in history. History about something that you can learn about key moments of the past from Sienna. Sienna thinks it's key moments, significant moments perhaps. Searching things from the past. So what key skills do we need? We've got not much about key skills so far. Let's see what we can add down. Historian is someone who learns about all the times of the past. So does a historian have to know about everything that's happened in the entire past? I did history at university. I'm not quite sure I know everything that's happened ever. History is a lesson where you go, where you learn the past, and to be honest, you need to be a good map reader and explorer so you know where to go. I think map reading and exploring is more of a geographical skill, to be honest. Period of time that's already happened. Okay, a couple more minutes in here. Okay, we've struggled with our key skills for this, I think. What we need to do as a historian. We've talked about the past. About 50,000 people have mentioned the past now, so I think I've got that bit. We've not got out some of the key skills which historian needs to happen. That's okay, we're going to learn some of those today. Lewis told me it's about key skills. What key skills are they? That's an interesting one here from Ava. Good historians have to make things in history more clear than they were before. So they've got to make sense of all these different things in history. It's a really important part there. Lots of people have mentioned maps. I'm not convinced maps are the important parts here. Spanish Armada, really keen topic. I know Holly's been doing lots of work on the Spanish Armada. She was telling me when I rung her up. Excellent. Some good ideas there. Let's take a stop and look this way. History is about the past. It's about knowing important events in the past, but it's about understanding them. The past is a completely different world. It doesn't exist anymore. And quite often, in the past, the people who were there aren't there anymore to tell us what it was like. Even if we were there, even if we're looking at something fairly recent, different people see the past in different ways. And you, as historians, have to examine everything to decide what is the best way of explaining the past. What was important, what was significant. You have a really difficult job to as a historian, because you've got to know lots of things, but you've got to explain them as well. It's a bit like being a detective. You have to look at all the clues in history, find out what is true, find out what is more believable than others, be very discerning, picking out what are the key, crucial information. You've got to look at fine detail. Boys, can you leave your keypads alone, please, when we're not using them? We can look at fine detail, and we can look at the bigger picture too. Lots and lots of skills in history. You need to build up that idea of what's going on. You need to recreate other people who may not have existed for an awful long time. You need to use evidence. You need to use sources. Those who were in year 4 with me this year, we looked at lots of primary sources, and we looked at the Highwayman, and we looked at different sources. In year 5, you'll be looking at the... Leave our bottle still, please. Thank you. We've been looking at the ancient Greeks this time. Did you get a chance to look at that year 5? No. Okay, you looked at World War II, we looked at evacuation sources. You looked at the Beatles songs and looked at the lyrics. We've looked at deciding how that can help us build up a picture. Today, we're going to look at a very simple object to help us build up a picture of what life was like. We can see how historians don't just need to look at the big things, who the kings and queens were, how people went to school, or important dates, or big battles. That's a really important history. But you know what else is important in history? Looking at the fine details and finding out what it could mean. What's this?
Pen.
Pen. Excellent. It's a pen. It's got a little ball point at the end of it. It's got a little bit of plastic on to stop me from using it, I think. Obviously Mrs. Newton's getting wise to me borrowing pens. Right, doesn't it? Right. Who's used a pen before?
Me.
Yeah, excellent. Everyone's used a pen before. Obvious common object. Got some ink in it. It's got a little... Do anyone know what type of pen this is?
Ballpoint.
Yeah, ballpoint pen. It's got some ink in it. I've got a ball at the end so that the ink, when the ball runs over the page, the ink comes out. You can write upside down, can do all sorts. It's got a lid so I don't lose it. Everyday object, right? There's so much history in just one pen. Today, we're going to be looking at some different pens and finding out what we can see, what it can tell us about how people live their lives. So, we're going to start off with this pen, possibly the most famous pen used today. Think about, do you know the name of this object? Do you know what it is? We know it's a pen. Do you know how it works? Which bits of it are what? How does it work? Who would own a pen like this? And why? Do you have to tell me just yet? I'm going to share it in a second. Who would own a pen like this? And why? Dig deeper. Don't just tell me a simplistic answer. How do you know who would own a pen like this? What are the clues in this pen? Is it an expensive product? Is it a cheap product? Is it something which we use and keep safe? Is it a very precious item? Is it a disposable item? Is it something we just have one of? Is it of many of? What skills do you need to have to be able to use a pen like this? Do you need lots of skills? Is it something that anyone can pick up? What can you tell me? We're going to do a collaborative workspace activity. So that means you'll be working in groups with children in school and out of school, working together on a workspace. So you'll see other people's ideas coming up on your screen at the same time. If someone else puts an idea up, do you have to put it up as well?
No.
No. I will get to see what you do as a group. So it gives you a chance to think of something interesting, something unique to mention. Collaborative workspace activity. Let's put you into teams. That's 8 teams. It's going to put you into some teams. I'm not convinced all of these children are still signed in, but hopefully most of you are. I might have some teams where there's a few children who in year 2 haven't joined us back again. Never mind, it should be okay. See if you can share your ideas. So annotate the page using the A button to tell me what you can find. You might want to use the pen to draw any lines, but use the A button. So for this team, I'm going to put it is a disposable product down. I'm going to think, what does that mean? It means they must be cheap to make and easy to recycle. I'm going to put that down. That's what I think. It's a cheap product, so people, if it's a disposable product, don't treasure them. I'm going to put in my comment. It's not something people treasure. People don't keep them safe. They just use them all the time. It's a common item, perhaps. Is it common or rare? What can you tell me? I'll give you a few minutes. So let's see how people in different teams can do. So how Team 5 have been getting on so far. Team 5, cheap to make, uses ink and a little bit of metal. Excellent. I'm going to put that idea up there so it doesn't get lost. Let's see, a couple of minutes, what can you add to your team's work? Work quickly, work fast. We've got lots of sources to look at here. See if I can find some children who I don't think are on this lesson. Finley, if I knock you out and you are on the lesson, my apologies, just sign back in again, please. I don't think Billy's in this lesson for a start. Everyone else might be right. Used to write things. What type of things? What type of things would you write with this? Would you write a sonnet? Would you write a memo? What do you think the most common use of this pen could be? Team 5, we need 2 ideas down so far. Let's get your heads cracking. Let's see how Team 6 are getting on. Office workers, let's put these ideas up around the object so we can see. We don't just answer the questions down here. Come on, we're not thinking deep enough. I have to say, year 2 and year 3 had much deeper answers than what you're coming up so far. Let's think detail as we can, please. Modern day pen. Who's put modern day pen in Team 7? Tell me why. Justify your answer, please. Go back and tell me why it's a modern day pen. Lots of colours, that's important. Why do you think that's significant? If you can get it in lots of colours, what does that tell you about ink? Used to write onto paper, cheap to make, that's important. Why is cheap to make important? Who can go back and explain? If it's cheap to make, what does that tell you about who would use this pen? Why would you use it? What does it tell about how it can be used? Why is it important that it's cheap to make? Some good ideas from Team 7. Can you add to your ideas? Why is it cheap to make? Why is it important it's made of plastic? What clues is it made of plastic? What clues can you tell you? Why is that important? Be a historian. If it's made of plastic, what does that tell you? I want some detailed answers to these, please. The detail is important. Oh, some good work from Team Pen. Cheap and good quality. That's important, isn't it? That is the pen which is not only cheap, but works really well. Disposable product, cheap. Oh, that's mine. Thought that was good. That's an interesting one. Used worldwide. So that tells you it's a pen which helps us stay globally connected. It's a pen which can be used in different cultures for different situations. Recyclable, cheap and good quality. Don't need to use skills. Team 1 are our top team so far. Let's see how Team 2 are getting on. Cheap, used to write pie. Someone said it's made ages ago. What do you mean by ages ago? How far? What, in the Roman time? When was this pen made? When do you think it was made? look how Team 3 are getting on. Everyday product. That's a great use of that word there. I wonder who's put that in Team 3. Fantastic. An everyday product. It's commonplace. It can tell us so much about our world that a pen has become an everyday product. Someone said it's made in 1900. That's an interesting idea. Made in the Roman times? I think I'll disagree with that. I'm fairly convinced it wouldn't be made in the Roman times, this pen, but let's find out. Reporters might use them. Oh, you know what? Whoever's mentioned reporters might use them. That's really interesting. We're going to be talking about reporters very soon. Might remember businesses, kids can use it for work. This is interesting. It's not that hard to find in stores, yeah. Loads of places sell it, isn't it? You don't have to go 100 miles to find a pen. It's not like toilet roll, is it, where there's hardly any in the shops a few months ago. Excellent ideas now. Really starting to think quite easy. Great idea from that team. It is common, someone said. It is common. That's a really interesting idea. Team 5, let's see how you're getting on. Cheap to make, uses plastic and a little bit of metal. So, if it's made out of plastic and metal, what does that tell you? Why is that significant for a historian? If a historian saw this object, what does the plasticness tell them? Okay. Excellent ideas there, some really good thinking. You're starting to think like historians. Let's just put your eyes back on me for a second. And what our skills are to use evidence to build up a picture to make judgments. So have a think. If this pen is really common, that it's easy to acquire, what does that tell you about people's literacy skills, the number of people who can write? Do we live in a world, for this pen, is it a world where many people can write or only a few people can write? What do you think? So,
a lot of people can write.
Yeah, tell me why you know that.
Because people write at school and work and
So why does this pen help us understand that? On.
Because you use a pen every day. It's an everyday object that can be found easily.
Yeah, it's really important. If people need a pen every day, they need lots of cheap pens. Who's lost a pen here? I'd lose a pen. Who's lost more than one pen? Who's lost a pen today already? Me and Mrs. Bowers have got our hands up. Kanan's got his hand up. It's quite impressive. He's only been sat in one place. Very well done, Kanan. That's honest of you to admit. So, yeah, that's really important. If our society needs an everyday pen, it must mean pens are used all the time. It must mean we lose a lot of pens. It must mean we go through a lot of pens. And it must mean lots of people need a pen. Because if this pen didn't exist, it would tell us there was no need for it to exist in the first place. If we didn't need these pens, no one would invent them, would they? So the fact this pen exists tells us so much about history. It tells us that we live in a society which needs pens to be cheap, to be easy to accessible, because we need to write down lots of things. Hassan?
Why did they not use pens when the quills were around?
That's a great idea. We're going to look at that shortly. Let's look at another type of writing instrument. This one. Another type of writing instrument. Get ready to share some ideas about this in just a second. I can see if there's anyone else who should be. I don't think. Holleen Free Tea. I don't think you're in this lesson. If I get rid of you and you are, don't be offended. You can always come back and join us. Lewis in Free Tea. I don't think it's on this lesson. So if I've got rid of you and you are in this lesson, don't be offended. Just come back in again. Have a look at this type of object. When do you think this was made? Why would this be used? Why am I not using a pen? How do you think you'd use this object? Who would use it? And what skills would you need to use this object? And if you think about what skills you would need and who would need it, that will give you a clue of how important was writing and who might be writing and when was writing done. Look very carefully at this pen. What do you notice inside as well? It did work with ink, or type of ink. So think about how this pen worked. Think about when it was made. Think about what it's made out of. Think what this pen can tell us about society. That's your big question. Now you started to look at things, dig deeper. Make sure you're telling me what you think this pen can tell us about life. What does it tell us about how people wrote? What does it tell us about who people wrote? What does it tell us about how society might have been? Remember, all we've got is this pen to go on and your own background knowledge. Let's have a go. You're doing really well so far. Off we go. We won't collaborate on everything. Some things we might do together. Different teams this time. Off we go. See what you can come up with. So get ready to annotate. How do you think these pens are made? How do you think about who, when about in history do you think they come from? Why is it important? Why have I picked this object out? What is it telling us as a society? And as historians, your job is to be reflective. I've picked this for a reason. I've been very discerning in the sources I've chosen. How would it work? What skills would you need? Is it an everyday object? Is it a common object, do you think? Is it something that... What would you need to have done before you used this pen? What would happen if you made a mistake? What could the consequences be? Look at some of the writing. Let's take a look at some of your ideas. So, Team 6's ideas. So, Orden people used it. What do you mean by Orden people? People in the 80s, people in the 90s? Give me some sort of idea when about history this come from. Orden people is a little bit, so 1800s. So that's about the time of the Victorians, just before the Victorians possibly. Victorian period was about 1820s up until 1901. You dip into it, made out of bamboo, some things. If it's made out of bamboo, what does that tell you about where this pen might have come from, about how it was made? What would people have to do? What skills would we need if it's made out of bamboo? And that's something better than my board, anyway. People saying you dip into it, I'm going to tell you it does not work by dipping it into ink. That's not how these pens work. Look more closely. How do you think the ink got into the pen? You do not dip these pens. Look more closely. Dip it in ink, not right. Made with wood, hard to write with. Yeah, that's important. If it's hard to write with, what does that tell you about who used them and what you need it to be able to do any writing in this time period? What did it tell you about the number of people who wrote? What did it tell you about how people wrote and why people wrote? Next, we're getting our right spelling correctly. It is a quill, it is not a quill. That's not correct, but good thinking. Using the 19th century again is wrong. 19th century was about the period between 1800 and 1899. It is not using the 18th century though. Someone said it's a fountain pen. It is not a fountain pen. See how Team 7 are getting on. We don't have pens like this now. We definitely don't have pens like that. Made in the 60s. Well, the 60s were only 40 years ago. That is not a long time ago. Do you think that's right? It look odd. Let's see if we can think a little bit deeper, please, year 4 and 5. You used to made to prevent hand fatigue and cramp, possibly. Liquid ink. Well, how will that liquid ink get in there? Can we back here 4. Used before the pen was invented. Excellent point. This person used before the pen was invented. How do you know it's used before the pen invented? What's the clue? Thank you. Look at Team 4. Looks like it was made in China, or it was made from bamboo. That's an interesting connection. It wasn't made in China, but I love that connection. It's actually made in Egypt. Samuel Pepys would use it to write in his diary. Samuel Pepys wouldn't use this particular type of writing object to write in his diary. Person would own it, maybe a Stone Age person. That's interesting. Why do you think it would be a Stone Age person? What are your clues there? This is a really interesting point. You can write hieroglyphics. Yeah, you can write in hieroglyphics. What clues can that give you about how this pen may have been used? What do you think it wrote onto? Lots of people said it's made of a Victorians. I think I may have said it's not made of a Victorians. You may want to reflect on those comments for your team. If your team is still saying it's made of a Victorians after I've said it's not, repeatedly, I think you need to have a look at that. Caden.
Each time I try right, it just won't let me. It just kicks me off.
Persevere. You can have it. Give it a go. You'll get there. Made out of dried bamboo. Why is the dried bit significant? If it's dried, what someone have had to do to get this pen? What someone has done to make it? Hard to write with. What's your clues? How do you know it's hard to write with? I can't understand what that comment means, I'm afraid. Got one more team, team 5. Bamboo, only poor people would own it because rich people would have posher pens. It's an interesting observation. I'm not too sure the evidence would stack that up. It's an interesting observation. Okay, wherever you are, stop typing please and look this way. Some interesting points there. Okay then. It's the second time I've had to say your name in this class. Some interesting points there. Someone mentioned it was made out of dried bamboo. So what would have happened to get this pen? What would someone have had to have done?
Pick some bamboo off.
Pick some bamboo. Then what would you have to do with the bamboo?
You'd have to try to dry it on leaves.
You'd have to dry it out. Do you think that's an easy job, drying bamboo out to get it to the right stage, the right thickness? What would you have to do once you dry the bamboo out?
You'd have to carve it.
You'd have to carve it, yeah. We're already getting to some key skills, aren't we? It's not like you can set a machine to make a load of pens and you can buy them from any shop. You need to be able to write something, you need to have a pen made. You need to carve it. Do you think you'd own lots of pens in that case if it's taken so long to make one?
No.
No, these were disposable items. These were highly skilled, crafted items to make. Do you think it's going to be easy to write with one of these? Sienna, what do you think?
No.
Why not?
Because it doesn't have any ink in it.
Okay. It doesn't have any ink in it stored. It's not stored in my pen. What else makes it difficult to write with, Holly? Evie.
It might be easy for them because they made it, whoever made them, but we won't know how to write with them.
So you're telling me you'd have to be quite skilled, you'd have to be a certain type of person? Yeah, it's like anything. Only people with a certain skill set could use these pens. So would everyone use these pens, do you think, or just a few people?
Just a few.
So what does that tell you about the type of people who wrote? What would you have to be if you was wanting to write something down?
Skilled.
You would have to be very skilled. Libby, Evie, Lily. What's the matter with me today, Lily?
It would take a lot of time to get used to with the feel of it and.
Yeah. Look at how the character. There's no joined up handwriting here, is there? It's really difficult to write with these pens. Have you noticed they're hollow inside? You would pour the ink in the top and you have to hold it a certain way so that the ink only came down slowly and you could keep on writing. If you weren't very skilled, you'd make a massive splodge everywhere on your papyrus, wouldn't you? Go on, Sienna.
Could journalists use them?
There wouldn't be any journalists at this time.
Could during people ask their skilled slaves to make them?
That's interesting. Possibly it could have been done by slave. You know what? I don't know the answer to that, Hassan. Well, that's a really important question. This pen tells me it is so hard to write with. It is so difficult to get any writing down. And it's a suggestion that unlike this, when this pen's around, when everyone can write, very few people must need to write in this age. Because the use of a pen is really tricky. This pen tells me a lot about how society would be. That writing must be very skilled, very hard, and maybe only a few people would ever write or would ever need to write. Take a look at a different pen. I can see something on this pen. It says some letters on here. Can anyone see what they are? Try.
B-I-R-O.
B-I-R-O. Kanan.
Biro.
Biro. I've never heard of biro. It's a word we sometimes use nowadays for pen. I want you to look at this pen. Again, tell me the things you can spot, how it's been made. Think about what's happened to the pen here. Think about why that's been done. Not to show it's to make the pen go faster through the air. So why is someone taking the time to do that? Think about who would own this pen. Think about what it was used for. Is it closer to this pen or the other pen? And what does that tell you about when it was made? We're going to have a bit of a collaboration on this one. Let's do it as a whole group. So we'll share the whole area together for this pen. Everyone in one team.